Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be focusing on the third issue of Avengers Twilight. If you haven't seen the first two parts to this series already, go ahead and check them out here in the Marvel Podcast playlist. A lot of cool stuff happens in this issue. This is a 6-issue miniseries, so this is about the halfway point. So I'm very excited to get into it, very excited to see where it goes from here. But yeah, without any further ado, let's just continue. Let's get into it. So this issue opens up with Bullseye, who we were introduced to in the last issue, being reprimanded for not shooting Captain America when she had the chance in the last issue. Her superior is, shouting at her, like, why didn't you take the shot? He was right there. And she just refuses, like, I'm not gonna shoot an unarmed man, which leads her superior on a whole rant about how that man is a weapon. And, he's not wrong. But when we catch up with that weapon back at the Defenders hideout, after he's just learned that Tony Stark is alive and being hidden in a research facility, we see that he cannot sleep, he cannot wait, he's not comfortable just sitting around, knowing that his friend and former fellow Avenger is still out there, alive and imprisoned and hidden away. So instead of just sitting around, instead of trying to go back to sleep, being Captain America, he suits back up and meets up with one of the Defenders named Tyler, who he asks to send out a secret distress signal, hoping that it'll reach someone. He explains to Tyler that it's more of a Hail Mary, and he's not really expecting anything from it, but, Captain America, optimism. Upon seeing Captain America suited up, Tyler asks, "You're going on your own to get him, aren't you?" Cap admits that he's right, and says that this research facility is the Raft, and it's another level of danger that old-timers like Luke and the young kids that are on the Defenders just aren't ready for. Tyler insists that everyone has a reason for fighting and that he can't just do it all by himself, and explains to Steve that he's gonna need someone that can override the security of the facility to get him in the first place. Basically pitching himself, saying, "Let me go with you, let me help." It's at this moment that we jump inside the Raft, where we see Jimmy basically bragging to his father, or the remains of his father, telling him that he finally built an Iron Man suit just for himself, and he's basically gloating that he's better and smarter because he's quote-unquote actually keeping the world safe, whereas Tony and Janet Van Dyne just flew around like it was an adventure novel. And this isn't the first conversation that we've seen between Tony and Jimmy, but this is the first time I'm showing it in these videos because I think it's only relevant now. But I do want to point out, throughout every single one of these interactions, Tony doesn't really respond at all. He just sits there looking barely alive and half awake. So I'm kind of wondering, like, yeah, his remains are there, he's being stored, he's being kept alive, but how alive even is he at this point? Needing to get to the Raft quickly, Steve and Tyler hop into an old Avengers Quinjet, with Steve explaining that they had some stashed away in some of Tony's secret properties, secret facilities, once the government started seizing all the Avengers assets after H-Day. Tyler is admiring the design and functionality, being a tech person himself, saying, for such an old aircraft, it's really impressive technology. To which Steve explains that that's the magic of Tony Stark's inventions. He says that Tony was always vibrating, just waiting for the future to catch up to him. And, time after time in Marvel Comics, we've seen explorations of Tony's quote-unquote futurist outlook on life. So to see that his work is still impressive even in the future, really speaks to that, really speaks to him being a futurist, and, feels like a really full circle touch, which is nice. After a very short amount of time, they pull up to the Raft, they get to one of the entrances, knock out the single guard on duty, and break in. Steve tells Tyler to wait in the Quinjet and heads inside himself. As he sneaks through the halls, bypassing cameras and lurking in shadows, we get some narration from Steve saying, "This used to be a high security prison for the ones who let their powers corrupt them, for villains, but now in a world without heroes, in a world where the government just executes its villains, it's a monstrous research facility." We see things like Doc Ock's arms, holograms of Rhino's suit, Green Goblin's glider, and I think Archangel's wings in the back, but I might be wrong about that one. Steve waits outside in the hall for one of the scientists to pass by. He grabs him and uses his identification to get where Tony's being hidden, and when Steve finally comes face to face with the seemingly unconscious Tony Stark, he promises he's gonna get him out of there. Problem is, he doesn't know how. "I should have brought Tyler with me," he says to himself. "A little too complicated, old man?" A voice calls out from behind him. "Don't bother moving this time. My scope is on you." It's Bullseye, hiding in the shadows. They were expecting Steve to break in. She introduces herself as Bullseye, and explains that she figured he'd come to rescue Tony because he seems like the guy to make big, bad decisions. "Saving my friend is never a bad decision." Steve fires back. "You're corny as hell." Bullseye snaps. "Almost feel sad to drop you, but orders are orders, and you're a terrorist." "Is that what they told you?" Steve asks. "Doesn't matter what they tell me," she answers. "I guess not," Steve admits, seeing himself in her. "Just a soldier following orders. Easier to do that when you don't hear the truth." Just then, Jimmy enters the room, an Iron Man shell in hand. Wasting no time, Steve declares that he's taking Tony, and that what Jimmy's been doing isn't right. "No," Jimmy says. "What isn't right is you taking your geriatric steroids and beating up cops. All because what? The world isn't how Grandpa remembers it?" Bullseye then shoots Jimmy in the shoulder with a bow and arrow. A purple bow and arrow. Steve asks why she helped him, and she brushes off the question. unloading Tony Stark's remains in a portable capsule so he can escort it out safely. Jimmy calls for reinforcements, sending Bullseye and Captain America running through the hulls of the raft. But before they leave, Bullseye has to take him to a relic almost as old as himself. At last, once again, Captain America has his shield. I thought it was the age that made me feel incomplete, Steve thinks to himself. With the super soldier serum, I can lead an army. With you, I can do anything. He smiles with the shield back in his hand after so long. Let's get the hell out of here, he says. They make their way outside, only to be met with a fully armored up Jimmy Stark, his first official Iron Man suit looking like the complete opposite of his father's, color-wise. They exchange gunfire before Tyler jumps in the Quinjet and starts attacking Jimmy as well. Stark blasts the side of the ship. Bullseye shoots at the windshield, breaking the glass, just enough for Steve to pull Tyler out before the jet crashes and explodes. Jimmy makes an impactful superhero landing, rupturing the platform and sending raft soldiers over the side into the water. Bullseye and Cap try to save people, while Jimmy continues to fight. This is ridiculous, he says. You're the past fighting the future. No, I fight for the future, Cap replies. God, you sound like a bad old movie. I don't know why I resisted for so long. The armor, this power. God, I feel high. He takes the capsule with Tony Stark's remains in it and tosses it over the side into the water. I don't need him anymore, he says. I don't need anyone. Everyone needs help, son, Cap replies. That's what makes it all work. And in a poetic and super coincidental way, Ms. Marvel shows up, pulling Bullseye, the raft soldiers, and Tony's remains out of the water, saving everybody. Cap and Jimmy continue to fight Captain America versus Iron Man once again, before Jimmy strikes one final crucial blow, sending Cap to his knees. I'm James Stark, he says, and I run the world. Through groans and bloody teeth, Cap sits up as much as he can. I've met men like you. You won't run it for long. A bolt of lightning strikes Jimmy and destroys his suit, depowering him. What did you do? Jimmy asks. What I always do in hard times, Jimmy. I prayed. And right there, standing before the two of them, the God of Thunder himself, as mighty as ever with his new look, says, it's been a wolf's age, Captain. Shall we assemble? And that is where the issue ends. So we have Captain America, we got Tony Stark's remains, we have our Bullseye, who's basically Hawkeye, we got Ms. Marvel, we got Luke Cage, we got the Defenders, and now we have Thor. I mean, it's all coming together. We're only halfway through and it's coming together. I'm so excited. You know, it almost seems too early for them to all be in the same place, but I'm kind of glad because there's a lot that we still need to do, and I'm kind of glad they didn't wait till the end to have them all together. Still need to take care of Red Skull. Still probably gonna have to explain all this to Luke. Need to see how alive Tony Stark actually is at this point, and we still need to get the people back on our side. You know, Captain America gave that speech and ended up doing more harm than good, so needs to reverse that. They need to expose a lot of this stuff, and I'm pretty sure they're gonna have to take care of this fake Avengers team that's basically like a PR stunt type thing. So, you know, it all looks good right now, but there's a lot of steps to go. I'm really interested to see where Zdarsky takes it. I don't know, what do you think about this series? How's it going for you so far? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. But yeah, until next time, I will see you later. Thanks for watching.